What is up, Assassins? It's Chikorita here. Thank you very much for checking out the video today. We are back again showing you some defensive setups here on Fracture for Viper. We are going to be showing you some wonderful setups for A, some wonderful setups for B. Both of these are done in a way to where you can have the most annoying setups for the enemy team, which is exactly what you want. You want to make sure that you are in their face, annoying, disrupting them, separating them, picking them off one by one. And these are the setups that are going to do it for you. So come with me and let's take a look, starting off at A. First setup we are going to show you on A is a bit of a default setup here. It is going to be a pretty simple one. All you're going to want to do is make sure that your wall is being crossed by that angle and that angle right there. Chuck it across. This wall, much like most of Viper's walls on most maps, are going to make the enemy pass through the wall not once, not twice, but 3 separate times. If they would like to push onto site, they can get over here. They'll have to push through this part at first, which means you could be over there. They'll have to then push through here. You could be there. If they want to push through door, they have to push through the another side of the wall. If they decide to go all the way here, they'll have this part of the wall to worry about, so they'll have to push through this again. Someone could be there. You could be there. A teammate could be there. A teammate could be sand. There's many different areas and angles that you or your teammates could hold to where this is just a very shaky entrance and start for the enemy team. Orb placement, very simple placement. You're just going to want to go ahead and throw it, or right click it right in the middle, right there. That way it covers the entirety of it, and that way also if you need to go ahead and pick it up right there, you can just snatch it right there with no issues whatsoever. If the enemy does decide to push in through this, if you are on this little bottom side right here, they will have a hard time seeing you and will most likely be probably dropping directly on you, so just be aware of that. But if they decide to push out even faster, they drop down and it's just a big confusion onto where you are and where they're dying from. For a bit of a more difficult setup that is necessarily not going to help so much on the enemy's push, but more so after the enemy plants, this is going to be one for those. You're going to want to go ahead and put yourself in this corner right here. And then this little light bar right there, you're going to want to put your crosshair just dead center in the middle of that and throw it. This wall may seem kind of crazy when you throw it at first, but let me tell you, it will work absolute wonders for you and your team for the retake. For example, if they plant and you decide to throw it up, that then immediately locks off any potential enemies that are on the site to any enemies that are deciding to hold either there or a main, which is very good for you. You're able to push in, maybe throw a little poison thingy right there, make sure that they're not there. That way you have more of a chance to push in. Again, assuming this wall is still up, you will not be able to be seen from a main or anywhere else. That will not be advantageous for you. And overall, it is probably the best recover or retake setup wall for this site. For the big mamma jamma of this setup right here is going to be this secondary poison orb. This one is one of the most difficult poison orbs that I have found thus far. It is a bit of a weird one to even describe. I'm going to do my best to do it now. What you're going to want to do is right before the round, there's going to be a barrier right here. You're going to want to line yourself up directly with that like I am right now, except the barrier is not there. So pretend the barrier is there. Blue screen. Wow. And then what you're going to want to do is make sure that you have your crosshair lined up in the middle of the right side of the rope. That way it is splitting your crosshair in half. Obviously, if you have a smaller crosshair or something like that, do it to the best of your ability. And after that, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you have roughly put your UI next to your health bar around the rock, the rock showing area that is right next to your health bar. Then what you're just going to do is simply left click right there. And I say simply, but of course that is not very simply at all. It took me a lot of time to do that, which is why I did not move my crosshair. But as I said, you just want to make sure that that little rock showing right there with your UI is covered to the best of your ability. That way you cannot see it, and that way you have the best opportunity to hit this orb placement every single time. Now, the way this all plays together with this poison orb, and the reason why this poison orb is very crucial to all of this, is simply by the fact that, let's say you have your wall up right there and you are covered from there and you're wanting to go ahead and retake, the enemy is not going to be able to see you push from your spawn all the way to here, or if you just decide to walk all the way and then use the little rope to jump down, the enemy is not going to know that you're here if you are quiet. So after you do that, you have your poison orb up. If you want, you can go ahead and chuck one of your things in deep, follow in with it a bit slower. That way they just think your door opened because of your little poison bloop right there. push in a little bit further than that, and you are directly behind them now. Depending on if your wall is up or not, there may be an enemy right here, so just be aware of that, but they are going to be very, very unsure as to how you got there, or they are going to be very confused as to the whereabouts of where you are. If the enemy decides to move back here and the door is open, this is exactly what they'll see. Absolutely nothing. They'll see the very bottom of that rope, but other than that, they won't see anything in sand, anything up top at all. As always, the only other thing I need to mention about this site is when it comes to setting up this wall position right here. If the enemy does decide to be on the second floor of this site, just be aware of that. You are not 150% closed off from the enemy. They could get the jump on you from right here or from right here and shoot you. So just be aware of that. But other than that, you should have a fairly good way of retaking the site. Checking out our first setup here on B, we are going to show you a default setup for just any generic round. If you want to go ahead and throw it in, what you're going to want to do is put yourself in this corner right here, not that corner, this corner right here. Line your middle of your crosshair up with the corner of that blue box, green box. Again, when you throw your wall, make sure that you are covering the entirety of this. That way there is no little close angle for them to peek. Poison orb, once the round starts, simply just aim in the middle of that green goop right there. Toss it. This is how your setup is going to look when you do this normal default setup right here. If the enemy decides to push in through A main, they'll first have to go through this poison orb, which is going to decay them a fair amount in and of itself. Then from there, they're going to be looking here, all while not being able to push site fully. They will maybe either have the balls to push site or not. Either way, they will try to plant somewhere around right here, or if they decide to push into site, right here. For your position, I would recommend you play somewhere around the top of heaven on site right here. That way, you have a decent view of arcade if you want to see anyone coming in or not. Then if you start to see people pushing B main, you can go ahead and take a peek right here and see if they're cut off or see if they push through your wall. If you want a couple of different positions for this wall right here, you can go ahead and maybe throw yourself on this side of the wall so that you can get a cheeky shot off or two at an enemy that is pushing unaware. If you want to go ahead and peek this left side, you can do that as well. Again, be aware that they might all come at you at the same time with pitchforks and torches. But other than that, as to starting off for the match, this is a fairly reasonable and default setup here for Viper. It'll get you a good gauge of how the enemy likes to play. If, however, you do not want that side of the wall on site because it either blocks your teammates off that are holding here, or just isn't working out for you and you want to try something else, you can go ahead and put yourself in this little corner right here. Make sure you have your wall lined up there and there. Chuck that. And it is a very, very similar, simple wall that does the exact same job and get her done. If you like playing a bit more aggressively, or maybe you just want a bit more presence in B or B main, this setup might be for you. This promotes a lot of lurking for Viper, so just be aware of that. But if you want to go ahead and set something up like that, what you're going to want to go ahead and do is put yourself in this corner right here. You're going to want to make sure the far left side of your UI there is lined up on that side of the A with caution. Once you have it all lined up, you just throw it like so. Now, as I said, this wall doesn't do a lot for you if the enemy is already pushing onto site. But as the beginning of the round starts, it is a very, very helpful wall, because once you throw that wall up, you want to go ahead and take a peek here, see if they're coming in, see if you hear them. You can put yourself in a position like so to be ready for them. Or if you want to be a bit more aggressive with the push and not stop there, you can decide to take a very dangerous peek right here around this corner, again being aware of where the enemy is. And if they are not here, this will be a wonderful setup to help put you in their spawn and give you the upper hand on them in this round. With your poison orb, you are going to want to do something similar that we did on A, where you are going to want to line yourself up with the barrier that is going to be right here. Again, just be aware of where it is and put yourself as close to it as you can. From there, you're going to want to go ahead and line your cursor up with the top of that little branch, tree, leaf thing, and then you just do a simple left click. Drops right there, gives you or your teammate a perfect setup, and gives the enemy team a bit of an advantage to go under. But if you are then on the other side with your wall, pushing towards that side of their spawn, they won't be aware that you are going to see them pushing from under. This setup, in my opinion, is one of the nastiest setups that Viper has on any map, just from the sheer fact that not only does this setup promote a bit of lurking for Viper, and if you are good at that, you can nab your MVP of the match easily, but you also have that bit of uncertainty that the enemy doesn't have a clue of where you're coming from. If you want to go ahead and not push through your wall, you can go ahead and decide to be right here in your orb. You can take a peek on the backside of your orb. Make sure that you are aware of where the enemy is, as always, but there are just so many other angles and many uncertainties that the enemy is going to have to face with this setup, much more than even multiple characters that the enemy could throw at you combined. With these setups, you could be a piece of cheese with a mouse and keyboard, and you would still get kill after kill after kill. So just keep an eye out for these setups. Make sure you know if you are going up against these setups. Make sure if you have a Viper on your team, if they know these setups, other things like that, and your team will have a very, very wonderful time in Valorant. That is going to do it for us here on Fracture, showing off Viper's defensive setups. Thank you guys so much, tons and tons for checking out these videos. I appreciate it so very much. I hope you guys are having a wonderful summer so far. I believe this is coming out in the summer, so I hope you guys are having a wonderful summer. I hope you guys are staying cool, playing some Valorant, getting some wins. Make sure to check out other Valorant Viper setups if you want to go ahead and see those. We have some Killjoy setups, and we have some Cypher setups as well if you would like to check those out. Be sure to leave a like or a comment. Let me know what your favorite setups are. Let me know what your least favorite setups are. Let me know what you dislike about the setups. Leave a dislike if you did not like the video, and I will be sure to see you guys on the next one.